I was lying on the kitchen floor of my parents' house in suburban Denver, pink balloons still drifting across the ceiling, when my mother looked down at me, at her own pregnant daughter spilled out of an overturned wheelchair, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "Get up! People are watching!" People were watching. That was the one thing she got right. I'm Rachel. I've used a wheelchair since a spinal injury at 19. I was 8 months pregnant with my first child, and I had come to a gender reveal party my own mother insisted on throwing for me, only to learn, in front of 40 relatives, that the party was a trap. They wanted me to sign a power of attorney, handing my mother control of my money and a say over my unborn son. And when I said no, my mother tipped my chair. She thought a disabled daughter would be too grateful, too dependent, too afraid to fight back. What she completely forgot, was that her own house was wired with security cameras in every single room. Cameras she had installed, cameras that had been recording her the entire time. I'm okay now, but telling this takes more than I expected. So before I keep going, let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. It helps more than you know. From the outside, my life looks steady. I'm a pediatric speech therapist. I have a husband, Marcus, who is my whole heart, and a home we built to fit me. I've spent a decade proving to a world full of low expectations that a woman in a chair can do absolutely anything. But the lowest expectations of my life never came from strangers. They came from my mother, Diane. Diane is a woman who runs on control and image, president of every committee, hostess of every holiday, the kind of mother who introduces her children as accomplishments. And after my accident at 19, I went from being her promising daughter to being her project, a thing to be managed, pitied, and quietly resented for needing things. My younger brother, Tyler, was the easy one, the one who didn't complicate the family photo. When Tyler crashed a car, totaled it, and walked away, Diane paid the bill and laughed it off. When I needed a ramp built at the family home so I could come to Christmas, it took her 3 years and a lot of sighing about the cost. The person who saw me clearly was my Aunt Carol, my late father's sister. When my father died, he left a modest estate split between his children, and the bulk of my share, about $200,000, was placed in a trust that I controlled completely once I turned 25. Diane never forgave me for that. She believed, as the mother, that the money should have flowed through her. She told me a girl who can't even live independently had no business managing that kind of money. That was the seed. It just took years to grow into something monstrous. I met Marcus at a friend's wedding. He asked me to dance, which for us meant him spinning my chair across the floor while we both laughed like idiots. He never saw the chair as a tragedy. He saw it as a fact about me, the way my brown eyes are a fact about me. When we got pregnant, Marcus did the research no one else thought to do. Adaptive nurseries, accessible cribs, the whole world of parenting from a seated height. He believed in me as a mother before I fully believed in myself. But as the pregnancy progressed, Diane's interest sharpened into something I didn't recognize until too late. She started showing up with articles about high-risk disabled pregnancies. She started saying things like, "You're going to need so much help. You can't do this alone." She started planting a story in front of relatives that I was fragile, that I was struggling, that I might not be up to it. I thought she was just being her usual smothering self. I gave in on small things to keep the peace. Let her plan the shower, let her plan this gender reveal, let her host it at her house. Every concession, I told myself, was buying calm. I had no idea she was building a case. The gender reveal party was at my parents' house on a bright Saturday. 40 relatives, pink and blue everywhere, a cake with a hidden center, Diane in full hostess mode. Marcus had stepped out to the driveway to help my uncle unload the cake from the car. The second he was gone, Diane wheeled me into the kitchen to talk privately. Except Tyler followed, and so did 2 of my aunts, the audience she wanted. She set a folder on the counter and slid it toward me. A durable power of attorney, naming Diane as my agent over my finances and my medical decisions, and stapled behind it a second document, a proposed standby guardianship designating Diane as a caretaker with authority over my son after he was born. "What is this?" I asked. Diane smiled the smile she uses for committees. "It's just a safety net, sweetheart. You're high risk. You're in a chair. If anything happens, someone responsible needs to be able to step in, for the baby's sake." Her voice was warm and loud, performing for the aunts. "Everyone here knows how much help you're going to need." Tyler leaned against the fridge. "Just sign it, Rach. You're being difficult. It's for the kid." I felt the floor drop out of my stomach. This wasn't a safety net. This was a leash. My money, my medical choices, and a foot in the door toward my own child, all handed to a woman who had spent 10 years treating me like a burden. "I'm not signing this," I said. "I'm his mother. I'm capable. The answer is no." Diane's smile cracked. She leaned down close, her voice dropping low so the aunts couldn't hear. "You will sign it, or I will spend the next year telling every judge and every doctor that you're an unstable woman in a wheelchair who can't care for a child. Don't test me." I raised my voice so everyone could hear. "I said no." And that, me refusing loudly in front of her audience, broke her. Her hostess mask fell away. She grabbed the handle of my chair and yanked it sideways, hard. I went down onto the tile, my belly, my back, the white-hot crack of pain up my spine. The balloons drifted overhead, and then the warm rush soaking through my dress, spreading across her spotless kitchen floor. My water had broken, 5 weeks early. I lay on the tile, a contraction seizing me, and I looked up at my mother. She didn't drop to help me. She looked at the doorway, at the relatives crowding in, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Get up, people are watching." People are. That was the moment something in me went still and clear, because I knew something Diane had forgotten in her rage. 2 years earlier, Diane had installed a top-of-the-line smart security system through the entire house. Cameras in the living room, the hallway, the kitchen, all of it. She was obsessed with the cleaning lady, the landscapers, the delivery drivers. She watched the feeds on her phone constantly and bragged about it at every party. There was a camera mounted above the kitchen cabinets. It had been recording the entire confrontation, her threat, the folder, the moment she flipped my chair, all of it streaming to a cloud account, her own camera, her own evidence, aimed by her own hand directly at the spot where she assaulted her pregnant daughter. I didn't scream for help. I pulled my phone from the side of my chair and pressed the emergency SOS I'd set up for exactly this kind of high-risk situation. Auto dial 911, broadcast location, flag a medical emergency. The screen lit red. Then I lay back and waited, holding that phone, knowing the camera above me was still rolling. Marcus came through the door at a dead run, the cake forgotten on the driveway. He hit his knees beside me, his hands on my face, on my belly. "Rachel, what happened, baby? What happened?" She tipped my chair. I whispered. "My water broke. It's on the camera, Marcus. The kitchen camera." His head snapped up to the lens above the cabinets, and I watched him understand everything. He stood and put himself between me and Diane. She was already spinning it for the relatives. She had a spasm. She lost her balance. You all know how fragile she is. It was an accident. Then the sirens hit the cul-de-sac. The paramedics and 2 Denver County deputies came straight through Diane's pristine front hall, past 40 relatives in their party clothes, and swarmed me on the kitchen floor. As they slid me onto the gurney, I caught the deputy's sleeve. "It wasn't an accident," I said clearly. "She threatened me and flipped my chair because I wouldn't sign over my money and my son, and it's all on that camera." I pointed straight up. "Her own security camera. She'll have it on her phone on the app right now." The deputy looked at the camera. Then he looked at Diane and asked her to pull up the footage. She refused. But the cloud account doesn't care who refuses. They had a warrant by that evening, and the footage was exactly what I said it was. Her threat in her own voice, her hand on my chair, the tile, the fall, the rest. They didn't cuff her in front of everyone that day. They took statements while I was rushed out. But the arrest came 2 days later, and the relatives who'd stood in that kitchen had already seen enough. The aunts she'd been performing for became the witnesses who buried her. For 9 hours, I labored in a high-risk delivery room at a Denver hospital, The medical team watching my blood pressure and my spine with everything they had. Marcus never left. He counted my breaths. He told me over and over that I was already exactly the mother our son needed. At 6:02 in the morning, they laid him on my chest. My son, Eli, early, small, and completely, impossibly perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a cry that filled the whole room. The cycle ended in that moment. He would never know what conditional love felt like. He would only ever know the real thing. The case moved quickly. The footage from Diane's own cameras left her nothing to stand on. She was charged with assault on a pregnant person causing serious injury, plus the threats. She took a plea to avoid a worse trial and was sentenced to 12 years, with the guardianship petition thrown out and a protective order in place. The committee president, the holiday hostess, finished in the only community she had ever cared about. Tyler, who stood by the fridge and told me to just sign it, was named in the civil suit and lost the financial cushion he'd always counted on from our mother. He doesn't call. That's fine. Today I'm in our home, the one built to fit me, and Eli is too, tearing across the living room at full speed while I roll after him pretending I can't catch him. Marcus films it on his phone, laughing. My mother spent 10 years using my chair as proof that I couldn't be trusted with my own life. She never understood that the chair was never the weakness. The weakness was hers, and she pointed a camera right at it. What do you think? Did 12 years fit what she did? Or would you have handled it differently? Let me know in the comments. If this story meant something to you, subscribe and hit the bell for a new one every day. Thank you for listening.